The withdrawal of Satluj, the film based on the life of human rights activist Jaswant Singh Khalra, has opened one of the most sensitive chapters in Punjab's history again. The film was released on an OTT platform after years of certification disputes and demand for multiple cuts. But within 48 hours, it disappeared from Indian screens. It has reignited the debate over Punjab's militancy years, allegation of extrajudicial killings, question on state accountability, and the larger issue of freedom of expression. There is another side to this entire issue, that the film whitewashes terrorism. It does not contextualize what our police officers underwent, how Punjab was redeemed, and how Punjab was fought by our brave officers. On this issue, I am joined by Karan Singh Sidhu, retired IS officer, former Special Chief Secretary of Punjab, and someone who, as I said, closely witnessed Punjab's political and administrative journey through the times of militancy. So your opening comment on this entire thing, should we frame it from the point of view of freedom of expression? Should we frame it from the point of view of national security? Or should we frame it from the point of view of the fact that it was not supposed to be released and still it's out there and open?
Karthikeyan, first of all, thanks for having me on your channel. All the three perspectives that you framed are actually intertwined with each other. It depends upon where the analyst or the commentator is speaking from. It's a question definitely of freedom of speech and expression, of artistic expression. It's definitely a question of, if not national security, then public order and tension between communities and so on. And also, if there is a gap between the regulatory framework as to whether you cannot have a public display because you did not implement the 120 plus cuts, and then you have a self-certification and you're streaming into every household, and now of course it has gone viral. So depending on from where you are willing to discuss, one can take the discussion. If I may frame it shortly, insofar as freedom of speech is concerned, let us be very clear from a short constitutional perspective, the freedom of speech in India for a normal citizen, for a channel, for artistic expression, for a journalist, for a comedian tweeting, it is not absolute. It, as a fundamental right, it is subject to public order, health, morality, and so on. So that's one thing. And censor board is an extension of that type of a thing. The other thing is, what is national security, public order? So national security is something which potentially impinges upon the security of the state, and you need not wait for an event to happen. And like in all the preventive actions which the administration takes, public order, law and order, preventive sections, apprehension of breach of peace, within that perspective, national security and public order issues those are decisions taken on the apprehension rather than, bolting the stable after the horse has run. And then you would say that the administration was, sleeping, what were the intelligence agencies doing, and so on. And then, of course, the regulatory framework, the gap is pretty much, out there in the open. So these are the perspectives from which you can see.
Okay.
And now, specific question as to from the law and order, the lived reality, and so on.
I was a child, sir. I'm born in 1975. I'm a child of 80s. I have seen Delhi. I had the opportunity in some ways to visit parts of Punjab as a child in early 80s. I also have firm memories. Are people forgetting what Punjab underwent? The sort of violence which the terrorists perpetrated there? The sort of support which Pakistan was pumping in? The sort of fight which our police officers, their families had to put up with these terrorists?
Absolutely. I mean, one thing is that even people of my generation, for instance, I was the Deputy Commissioner oblique the District Magistrate in Amritsar from 1992 to 96, which then included the district of Tarantaran, which is now a separate revenue district. And 2 years before that, I was Additional Deputy Commissioner Development dealing with panchayats in those rural areas specifically. And before that in Police District Batala. So for us, it is a lived reality. People dying to DIG rank officers killed in live encounters, 4 or 5 serving SSPs in various operations all over the state, actively killed. And if you count the SP level officers, including those on deputation from paramilitary forces, one can get into the statistics, but those are the lived realities. And for our generation, people who are adult, people who are serving, For them, the wounds have healed. Punjab has healed. And there are other issues on which Punjab should be addressing. But definitely, which I say, that a person who's born around Blue Star, or let's say a kid born from 80s onwards, who's now a mature adult in mid 40s, late 30s and so on, would not have any idea of what Punjab underwent. And for them, it's a kind of a clean slate and a strongly made, from an artistic point of view, a movie which creates an impression. I watched recently the pirated version. I had not seen the regular one in 48 hours. And even with my type of sensitization or having lived experience and seen, the impression which it created on me and potentially would create on any person within or outside Punjab, a Hindu or a Sikh, abroad, foreign national who has nothing to do with India, the single impression that would be going across after watching this movie is that the Indian state, forget about what state government was there, ye Congress thi, wo tha, and all that. The Indian state, through the instrumentality of Punjab police specifically, without even getting the central paramilitary forces into it, or even army was out there in aid of civil authority, that it was a kind of a state perpetrated, genocide, picking up, Sikh boys and, kind of a genocide of that. That is the impression.
Okay, the film misses the grey part of it. So I'm going to ask you these intertwined questions because one cannot be separated from the other. This film, in a way, tries to make a villain out of Mr. Gill. I want you to talk about Mr. Gill. How hard was his task? Secondly, disappearance are a fact. It's been acknowledged. But the film also does not talk about how the families of the policemen were targeted by the terrorists. How was that dealt with? And what actually broke the back of the terrorism in Punjab? How did the men like you broke the back of terrorism? I think that is the story which is not being told. I have full sympathies for the families who lost their loved ones, who disappeared. But there's another side to this story, sir, that the terrorism was fought on the soil of Punjab.
Very interesting questions. One would have a 2 hours discussion and still there would be, altered stories left. But before I come to Mr. KPS Gill and address him, on 360, is the disappearances. Now, when you call disappearances, unidentified cremations and so on, Mr. Khalra was a kind of a middle-level leader and belonging to a mainstream national party of Shromani Akali Dal, and he'd been doing his research again, and essentially based on the municipal corporation cremation registers, which every dead body which is brought there, you have an entry on the basis of which death certificates are issued. So he was able to lay his hands on the Amritsar 3 cremation grounds, and the main one was near Durgana Mandir, but run by the municipal corporation and Taran Patti subdivisional headquarters of Taran. And his research from 1980 to about 1995 and was that 2000 plus bodies are shown as unidentified. So there could be genuine bodies, a person dying in severe cold, and with the municipal corporation saying that it is unidentified. But generally it was, police encounters. Now, I would say as a proactive assertion that, any extrajudicial killing by whatever name called, even then, now, in future, you cannot justify by any stretch of imagination. So let's not get into those gray areas. Now, the police version, in a particular case, they say we have information and those people are there and they are armed with not AK-47s, they are armed with AK-74s, Dragunov rifles with drum, magazine and so on. And when we go, instead of responding to our request for surrendering in the village, in the sugarcane fields and so on, they fire upon us. My SSP is hurt and my personal security guards die, and we retaliate and people are killed, and the encounter or the operation is over. Now, if those 5-6 bodies are then brought after post-mortem examination, after forensic examination by senior people from Amritsar Medical College or civil surgeon Amritsar, have then ultimately got to be cremated in accordance with law, those are the instructions. But within that there are 2 categories. One is they say we've taken the photographs and so on. We don't know who those people are. We don't even know whether they are foreign nationals or from where they have come. And so what do? We can't preserve the body. We've cremated it. And It is linked with the operation. रोजनामा में रपट है, वहाँ गए हैं, ये है, सारा हुआ है. Now, the other is, in some cases, 5-7% cases, the bodies are identified, the parents are informed, and they would say, "Bhai, our boy has been on the run for 3-4 years. He was with the terrorists or the militants, and he's died. We cannot even, take the dead body home and cremate. आप इसका जो भी करना कीजिए." That type of also thing was there. And then, of course, is a question of custodial deaths, which is a separate thing, but definitely not unidentified in that sense. So these 2097, that is the figure which emerged from Supreme Court case and national human rights further inquiry and so on, is the figure of the bodies which were cremated as unidentified. These are the broad categories. So not each of these is a fake encounter.
Okay.
And not every encounter is a genuine one, for which due process, like in case of Mr. Khalra, judicially we've reached a closure.
Okay. And what about Mr. Gill? Mr. Gill is being casted in a very different light. Either people make a villain of him or they make a hero of him. But he was the man who was at the helms of affair making tough choices.
Absolutely. Mr. KPS Gill was a strong police leader, there's no doubt about it. He'd served in Assam, he was Assam cadre. But let's put the thing slightly
People say that during the war with China, he did not leave his post.
That is what we hear. I mean, he was basically some cadre officer, and as a police officer, he didn't. But that shows his own bravery early on in the career. I mean, he would have been an ASP or SP level officer out there. Now, let us expand the perspective slightly beyond what the film shows. Since 1984, Mr. J.F. Ribeiro and Mr. KPS Gill have been at the helm of affairs insofar as policing is concerned. So you had, Blue Star happening, then conciliatory mayors, mid-85, Rajiv Longowal Accords, Surjit Singh Barnala government comes, peace restoration, terrorism doesn't go away, president rule is reimposed, all type of violent incidents. I can quote, trains being stopped on what is safe section like Ludhiana, Firozpur, and 100 plus Hindu passengers being gotten off and shot in cold blood, and the Resi ground, RSS Shahab, early morning 87, people gunned, and both ways, police, members of the police, their family members being butchered by the scores, those type of things went on. From 1987 to 1992, Punjab had the longest unprecedented 5-year stint of president's rule, constitution being amended and so on. Governors went and came, Mr. V.P. Singh government, and before that Rajiv Gandhi, and later on Narasimha Rao. But your terrorism as such was not being controlled. Now we are talking about efficacy of Mr. KPS Gill. Mr. Ribeiro, of course, somewhere down the line, he retired, he was Secretary Internal Security. So even when the Byan Singh government came in February 1992, which was Mr. Narasimha Rao's kind of a peace overture to have elections and not wait for the normalcy to return, and actually get a moderate Akali Dal headed by, surprise, Captain Amrinder Singh in a friendly match, but the Punjab electorate comprehensively rejected that packaging, and ultimately with 10-12% votes, Mr. Byan Singh became the Congress Chief Minister. So the situation was still bad. Mr. KPS Gill had a free hand from 87 to 92. You couldn't say minister bol rahe the. There was no minister, there was no MLA, there was no nothing. There was a president who was the agent of the center and the DGP running the show. So, but the situation could not be controlled. And I can say in all responsibility.
So what broke the back of the camel? How did you break the back of the camel?
I have a theory. I'll just say that. So when Byan Singh came to power in February 92, the situation was so bad that neither he nor his ministers could go inside the Golden Temple to pay obeisance. They could not visit the villages, at least not in the Amritsar areas. So then there was a whole talk as to, how do we justify the legitimacy of this government? People are saying, MLA को 500 वोट डल के आया तो वो क्या MLA है? Minister को 2000 वोट डली है, an electorate of 1 lakh. What type of legitimacy you have? So first in September 92, they had municipal elections, testing the waters and see micro-democracy. Small, towns like Jandiala, Ramdas, Taran, Patti, Khadur Sahab, Majita, those type of, all over the state. And they went on pretty much okay. And no one declared Khalistan, and generally Hindu and Sikh combined voted, and presidents were elected. Then there was a big thing where there was a huge debate, I can say, कि जी हम पंचायत की elections करवानी है. Panchayat has 12,000 villages and approximately 12,000 panchayats. That that would be the restoration of democracy, and we'll see huge turnout, and let's see which party wins and so on. The police and intelligence forces etc. were saying कि साहब ये खालसा पंचायत बनेगी, they'll resolve mini republics and so on. Why are you taking this risk? But here I must say in all responsibility that Mr. Beant Singh had risen from the Panchayati Raj system. He was originally at one time his own village's sarpanch, and all during terrorism as president of the Pradesh Congress, he had been moving around and seeing massacres happening and no democracy whatsoever at any level, including at the panchayat. So he was very clear कि जी हम पंचायत election करवानी है. Even his own minister was not agreeable.
So you're basically saying panchayat elections restored democratic feelings in Punjab.
In January, within 1 year, January 1993, there was huge press. I was the deputy commissioner there. BBC, CNN with those type of vans we had not seen before, live coverage, massive turnout, and of course going with the government. And that, in my opinion, created that network of information and also killed the disinformation, because what in many cases was happening was, the terrorists or the boys or the militants would come at night, spend at gunpoint, seva karo, khana khaya, so gaye, and in rare cases abusing the women folk, and they go off at 5 a.m. in the morning, and 9 o'clock the local police is there, you've been harboring terrorists. So the local population was actually ground, literally between two vices. And when the panchayats came, they had legitimacy. If something incident like this, there would at least 10 people would go to a panchayat and 15 people would go to the Thanedar. The legitimacy was there. And miraculously, by February 94, 2 years of Beant Singh government, things were normal.
So what is the most objectionable part of Satluj, in your opinion?
In my opinion, having seen the movie, I think it demonizes particular officers and demonizes the overall, the act and conduct of the Punjab police. The two things which it misses out is what type of, the content is there, but the context is not there. History, if it has to be told, let it be told, but let it be told, if not wholly, at least in a context. If it is 2 hours 43 minutes, okay, 163 minutes, 5%, 10%, 5-7 minutes तो आप दिखाओ, at least on the other side of the story, where innocent families, both Hindus and Sikhs, where selective killing of the Hindu families, and where the Punjab police putting up valiant fights and still their officers, being butchered and massacred in many cases. Without that, the impression which is created, irrespective of, it was permitted by the censor board or so on, creates that impression and it scratches the old wounds. And I can say, in all honesty, that the Hindu community, particularly in Punjab, right now it is feeling cheated कि जो हमारे साथ जो हुआ उसके रोना रोने के लिए कौन है? So you are, as multiple political parties saying, even as we speak today in Harike, where Satluj and Beas confluence is there, where his dead body is supposed to have been thrown away or disposed of. His dead body was never found. So there's going to be a Panthak congregation and so on. So why scratch the wounds? Punjab has recovered from worse things, Blue Star.
You think some political parties are getting desperate, Sidhu Saab, in order to revive their political legitimacy, अपनी legitimacy के लिए, अपने वर्चस्व के लिए पंजाब को माहौल खराब कर रहे हैं दोबारा से?
नहीं, देखिए बात ये है कि मूवी गुड बैड अगली रिलीज हुई 48 घंटे में it was withdrawn.
हाँ.
Now this is something which put the central government / the BJP on a back foot. Now you got 3, maximum 4 political players. For them, for want of any other mudda, or they say we are going to put the Bhajpa on a back foot. You come to Shromani Akali Dal, ready-made Panthak issue, he was our, human rights activist and so on. But, as a disclosure, I'm not aligned with any political party. I'm not holding any office of profit. And if Mr. Khalra was their General Secretary Human Rights, then in February of 1987, Prakash Singh Badal government had come into power. and the live CBI investigation into his disappearance and murder was going on, and thereafter the trial was going on, and for 5 years the special police officer slash homeguard type of a daily wager, who was the star witness, Kuldeep Singh, he was being hounded by police or agents of police. So what legitimacy does Shiromani Akali Dal today have? Those questions are being asked. And if Mrs. Khalra was put as a Panthak candidate from Khadur Sahib in Lok Sabha in 2019, uh, the Badal Dal put Bibi Jagir Kaur, then the sitting president of SGPC, and both lost. So those questions for Akali Dal are being, and so far as your Congress party is concerned, they are creating hue and cry from freedom of speech angle, and Punjab suffered. People say आपने blue star करवाया, आपने दिल्ली की सारी वो violence करवाई, तो आपका you have no moral right. And Aam Aadmi Party, without historical luggage, seemed to not be embroiled, and only to begin positively on this. But recent news, I have not personally verified, I'm only speaking from media, that DSP Jaswant Singh and a couple of others, of the 6 people convicted for life, and it was not a, for their natural life, with a stamp of the Supreme Court. So they went out, 1 or 2 went out on parole, and reportedly they never came back. So that is putting the Aam Aadmi Party on a back foot. And
But more than that, sir, do you see radicalization? Because Pakistan-sponsored Khalistani elements, they attack our high commissions in Australia. They will attack our high commissions in London. The protests they organize with ISI. Do you see that specter of coming it alive, or it's just an idea which is out there in Canada, America, Australia? How do you see it?
Even before this thing, and even before the FBI's Operation Hardball, which are all intertwined international tentacles, one thing was very clear, that gangsterism in Punjab over the past 1.5 years was kind of resurrecting. And it was intertwined with drones coming across the border, drugs coming along the drones, and in some cases small firearms. So it is not irrespective of Pakistan parading as Messiah of peace in Iran and USA. Its intent to make inwards and incursions into India, and more particularly Punjab, have remained, even as it dostana का हाथ वो बढ़ाते हैं. Let's not go into the history of
लेकिन आपको लगता है कि पंजाब में इन तरह की चीज़ों से माहौल पे फर्क पड़ेगा? क्योंकि देखिए, radical elements have got elected to Lok Sabha.
Absolutely. I mean, those people, that means that there is an undercurrent of grievance, which perhaps none of the political parties is able to address. So if there is joblessness, despondency, people not finding opportunities abroad, their visa regimes tightening, no startups coming, no investment coming, rather indigenous Punjabi people investing in states like Madhya Pradesh and so on, where packages are better. That is definitely, and you cannot shy away from the fact that Punjab is a Sikh majority state by 56-57%, even if the Jat Sikhs are about 20-21%. So that is something which the political parties need to be addressing. Now, even now, with this type of movie coming, the youngsters in the villages, more particularly the Sikhs and even the Hindus, they say, ye ho sakta hai yaar. I mean, what is the government doing? And BJP, it is a catch-22. I mean, Mr. Bittu's remarks, which were aggressive in nature, he was trying to wean the Hindu population towards the BJP, which they already were. But they say कि जी हमारे बारे तो बात नहीं की, आप क्या बात कर रहे हो? And similarly, Mr. Iqbal Singh Lalpura, the BJP leader, and Fulka Sahab, they've stuck a more conciliatory tone, and even a rap on the knuckles of Mr. Bittu, who is a sitting minister even as we speak. So to answer and to sum up, the potential to create those subterranean stresses is generated. Punjab, I know, is resilient because we have seen the worst and we have overcome that. Mr. KPS Gill used to deliver, lectures on the spot in Taran Taran, jungle areas and along the river Satluj, where Anglo-Sikh wars were fought, Battle of Sabra, and recreating those scenes, and IPS officers coming from all over the country. And he would say, कि जी terrorism ऐसे नहीं जाता. Palestine देखिए, North Ireland देखिए. This is something which goes on. These are other issues which have to be addressed and so on. But
Okay.
luckily, under his overall stewardship, the terrorism was controlled.
I
And I
think
think
if you ask,
one bleak spot is that the chief minister was assassinated, Beyond Singh, on 31st of August in his watch.
I think the worst part about this entire story is it does not actually show the sacrifice of the Indian Armed Forces. I think that's for me as a viewer, that's the biggest problem. And I really thank you, sir, for coming out all open, blunt, honest, and on point on this issue. Thank you for making time for News9 for such a riveted, rich, deep, and insightful conversation. So this was
Thank
Karan
you,
Beer Singh
Karthikeyan.
Sidhu with me on this special edition of On Point, and to my viewers, this is all I have in this special edition.
Thank you.
Thank you.